That's it. Is War Horde undeniable? Today on WAAAGH Wednesday, we're going to talk about the stats and the facts with how the great WAAAGH is doing. Some honorable mentions on recognizable players. Some we'll see how they did as of last weekend, and then top player coverage to get that I want to cover the most. So, of course, with that being said, let's get straight into the stats and the facts. This is live, of course. I see what you guys are saying. Welcome to the Great WAAAGH. Welcome, everybody. Oh, all right, we're live. So it's new. We're in the meta, new meta. Everything's hitting the fan now. We're starting to see how things are playing out for the Orks. A lot of ideas and theories have been going forward with Gaz and everything. Here now we're actually able to see some representation, but there was an odd amount of team events also. Take that in mind if you weren't aware. A lot of team events this last weekend. But let's give a shout out first to the Stat Check lads who are using Stat Check currently today. So let me know if you like it. These guys are awesome. They have their own podcast and channel, so you can check them out. And they're very, very good, exceptional players, some of the best. So with that being said, let's talk about the gets. So War Horde sitting here at 67% of the actual player placement. So we have the player population here highlighted on screen, and you can see War Horde is actually by far the biggest percentage, 67% at a 55% win rate, which actually is almost exactly in line with our overall win rate, which would be 54% win rate. So that's what that's looking at right now. Of course, it does matter who goes X and 1 now. As for Orks winning events, we have no events won. But we did have a couple players go 4-1 or undefeated at events that were team events. And that did give some players, about 9% of our player base overall was able to go 4-0, get to that percentile, right? So that's about like the top upper echelon, which we'll be covering some of them gets. As for Cult of Speed, 4% of the player base, 60% win rate, though. Huge change to what it used to be, guys. Cult of Speed was regularly being like 28%, 40%, 30%. But Cult Speed actually making its comeback. I feel like guys are starting to figure it out. I know me currently, I'm still enjoying my Cult of Speed. I definitely appreciate the gas changes. But once you know how it is, when you get some finally painted up, you're like, I kind of want to keep using it for a little bit. And it did take a while to figure out Cult of Speed. So shout out to those gets that did. Then we got Dread Mob with the 60% win rate, 4% of the player base. Of course, these are small pools. It's a couple players, but they're rising out, they're shining, and some of those gets were Dread Mob. And then what's actually come to life a little bit, and this was something that we kind of just like guessed and alluded to, was Wood Green Tide players come out of the woodworks. Wood Green Tide get a little bit of love from the gas change. So 9% of them, the player base there, and 59% win rate with Green Tide. We already talked about War Horde. Bully Boys did shoot up as well, and their population is right there at 11%. They've always been popular, always gotten love, but their win rates always suffering. This is actually a great improvement for them because they were the most losing detachment for a couple weeks there, right? Gets, you guys remember that? I know chat remembers that. Shout out to chat right now with the wall. Whoa, some misses tactics. Then we got Tactical Brigade and the Hunt with only 2% of the player base. Tactical Brigade maybe a little surprising, maybe not. Now that Gaz got the change, it seems like everything and most of the detachments are revolving around him to a certain degree, or you just want to shoot, not doing the combined arms aspect. So even though we know it has potential, not getting the numbers currently, at least of this current meta, but it just began, right, guys? We have a lot to unfold and unpack here. And then the Hunt, I don't think it really got any good enough changes to really, be impacted that we're going to see that much changes going forward. So whoever makes a shine, good job to you gets, but I don't think people should necessarily move into it, with just because of the little bit of buzz they got in the Hunt. And then overall, just positive records would be about 59% of the org player base. So when we do that, let's of course move on to our honorable mentions now that we hit the stats and the facts, because it looks like Gaz was the majority of the War Horde list that we looked at this weekend. But for our honorable mentions, I do have 2 selected lists that we can talk about. So there is some overlapping, of course. So in the comments after this, if there's a list that you guys found that you really like, of course, leave it in the comments, and I might just show it next week. So don't be shy. Don't be shy, rewatch gang. But for the people that are watching live, these honorable mentions, we have a 5-0 teams list that has Gaz on it that I was ready to show. This was on a GW layout. It was an American event. And then we actually have the London GT, as well as we're going to already cover one of the players, which was Brian Siepp, which was also the London GT. So we're going to have, that would end up 2 lists that we would cover from the London GT, but he had no Gaz on his list. And we have covered this player before, so he did give us some notes as well on some of how some of his games went. So just to make it clear, you can vote now, on the polls. Would you be willing to use, would you want to see Gaz list that I'm going to cover after the first one that I choose? Now the live chat's going to choose. You guys want Gaz list to cover as the second list I cover, which was at a different team event, GW layout, or do you want to go to the War Horde London GT list, right? So the event was the Challengers Cup, by the way. So it was a substantial event here in America. It was a legitimate, big, good team event as well. So it wasn't just some random offshoot event, but just to give some context. So make sure the chat actually goes out there and votes right now live. Pretty much, do you guys want to see Gaz in the teams event? Do you want to see no Gaz in the London GT event? And of course, anybody else that you guys want to give some shout out and love to. And speaking of people we want to give shout out and love to, got to give a shout out today, sponsor the Baron of Dice. So check out the Baron of Dice. They make high quality custom dice. If you enjoy our content, want to show some love, check out Baron of Dice. They make some WAAAGH tactic dice. So use the discount code for 5% off because nobody likes taxes. So check them out in the description. Now, let's move forward to the lad, the war chief himself, Brian Siepp. Now, he's the master of just being and showing up to the UK events and just stomping gets out with really odd lists. So I should give that to some context to you gets going forward. Anybody who's watching this, just know this guy, it does have his own, his own aura, his own war energy, right? We guys all know that every different, war boss and chief come with their own, style, right? So this is for inspiration, not necessarily copying directly, but we do have some insight on how this could work. It was fun to see, and there were other similar lists that we've seen throughout the weekend at other events even. So I thought it was a good archetype to talk about going forward, see if it ends up showing up or if the meta is able to adjust the style. Was it a UKTC thing? We do actually have the missions for the rounds that he went through. He did go 7 rounds. So I'm not going to make this too drawn out and like drain out every single matchup he did, but I will cover them and give a little bit of thoughts, right? I don't play UKTC, so I can't really put together exactly how I would game plan it, but yes, we'll give it some love you gets, all right? So let's go over the lads list. We have Gazgul Thraka as the War Lord, of course, coming in with the Big Mac and Follow Me Lads combo, of course. We're sticking Follow Me Lads on there, sticking the Big Mac on there, and then you don't have to put the gits in the wagon, right? A lot of time people are, if they're looking at this and they don't play Orks, they assume that the gas brick is going to go in the wagon, right? Not only does not that fit properly, but you need to be on the table for Here We Go, and you do want that additional movement ability, right? So you're going to just be on the field, taking up the big center, staging up with this brick, ready to get stuck in, move down the middle center of the field. Then you got 2 war bosses, boom, nice and clean. Shout out to you, Brian. I actually appreciate that a lot. A lot of the times when you're looking at these War Horde lists, some of our fellow gets are either getting out of hand or maybe that's right. Maybe that's the right amount of gets, I'm not sure yet, but there's a lot of time where you'll end up seeing 650 point lists of characters, 6-7 characters on these War Horde lists. And I'm not necessarily saying that's wrong. I'm saying that I appreciate that he was able to narrow it down to just 2 war bosses. Then he just has 1 20-man unit of boys. I love that. Just 1 battle line. 2 units of Breaker Boys, followed by 2 10-man units of Flash Gits. This is the odd, weird tech here as well, Gits. He did bring the 2 big bricks of them. They did come down. 20-man units of boys didn't, but the Flash Gits did, so he decided to get stuck in with them DACA Gits. Then we have the 5-man unit of Flash Gits as well, probably for a SWAT team availability, and then a Burner Boy, probably just for the point cost SWAT team availability as well. There is a custom Mega Blaster on the Spanner, though, just keep it in mind. Then we have 2 minimum sized units of Gretchen. Kind of can't let people get behind you with this kind of, list that you have. So very much screening your backfield, and then if you have the ability and flexibility, the other one's going to go try to get up the field or be used for trash screening. 2 knob units with power claws. That's most likely where the war bosses are going. Now, if you're wondering why that is, it comes down to when you're playing War Horde, the Breaker Boys can get stuff done on their own. And Breaker Boys on their own, just being in War Horde, getting sustained, getting into some ideal targets. And non-ideal target would be a 2-up armor save with an armor of contempt, right? But anything outside of that, that's like a light, medium armor vehicle, Breaker Boy unit is reliable to take it out. But a knob unit very much needs the war boss to function. So if you're wondering, yes, that's where the 2 war bosses went. They got stuck on the 2 5-man units of knobs. And then you have 2 battle wagons with all the fixins, RKs, cannons, lavas, big shooters, everything. Love to see it. Now we call, how we have the orc community has the SWAT teams where you take your truck and you put 2 units that fit inside of it for a number of 12, right? Now we have these blitzer wagons is what we're calling these, right? Blitz brigades, stuff like that, where you're filling up these wagons with multiple units. It's a trifecta of units in this way, right? So you can take 10 flash kits, 1 of the Breaker Boy units, and then 1 of the knob units with the war boss. Boom. 22. There you go. You essentially stuck a truck into the truck. Boom, you were there. 1 character war boss, with the knobs. The 6-man unit of breakers would be another 6, so then that'd be at 12, and then you have 10 flash kits. Boom, 22. So then you can fit both of that combo, duplicated, redundant. Bam, stick that up on the field, on the flanks, essentially, or just maybe depending on the layout, supporting alongside the middle for Gaz to pick up his ability. So there you go. Now that's in as the list would look in your head. That's how it works. The enemy has a very hard time, unless they can really just pop 1 wagon, getting to all of your assets right away. Because they have to pop a wagon, the units can jump out in different spots on the field. They're centralized, and you can put them layer out through the enemy at your own will. And like orcs always, like we always say, orcs like to get the initiative. Actually pick the engagements that are ideal. In this case, this guy pops out for this job. This unit pops out. Okay, it's all go turn. Everybody's staged up. Double wagon support. We got the redundant. Remember, like we always talk about as orc players community, when it comes to our durability or our reliability, you need redundancy. Redundancy is key. So I like the redundancy he's brought here. Good amount of just as we orcs can do it, AP can do, AP built into this list. So shout out to that. Now we're actually going to take a chance to look at his actual path to victory. Let me make sure I get this pulled up for you live, Gits, because the Big Mac's not doing nothing. Let's see. We have look this up, guys. What's up to the live chat, by the way, to you, Gits? Everybody decided, double wagons, right? You guys let me know right now in chat. Do you guys appreciate double wagons? Would you really feel comfortable bringing that on the field? Do you even own that? It's funny because I'm always like, man, that gets expensive combos. People assume, you're automatically paying for this big 500-point combo. No way you're going to bring for more big packages. Well, in this case, you are, but you're cutting it down by piecemeal. So I really like that idea. It makes it so deliverable for your whole army on 1 go turn. And compact, right? And it's just like the enemy can't really pick you apart, which really happens to us a lot when they end up losing. But now we're seeing a lot that wagons are showing up on a lot of the lists. Like I said, when we started this, at least over this weekend, will that pan out for the rest of the weeks coming forward, right? So, and I'm getting this pull up, guys. Let me get this up. All right, poll up, guys. So like I said, we have a Gaz team event, America, the Champion Challengers Cup, and then for the second list, it's no Gaz singles in the UK London GT event, where he used no Gaz and it went 4-1. So let us know. And then the team guy went 5-0. So let me know as we move through Brian's list. Now, let's get stuck in with this one, guys, because I was pretty excited. I'm happy to see orcs are doing well. Such a weird list, and we actually do have his actually do have the missions, right? And yes, the boys are on foot to you guys. People looks like they're liking the wagons. Yes, they're seeing a lot of double wagons. Easy to deploy. That's a good point. Yeah, right. Easy to decide where you're going to stay safe, and if someone can pop you with exaggerated lines of fire, lines of sight, they got to take where you can disembark. So it's kind of it fits our style, right? Because then everything's deliverable. So here we go. He made it into the top, near the top bracket. I think there was, he made it to the top cut. Shout out to you, get right here, as we can see. So let's go over his path to victory. I have the mission pack open. Sorry, guys, got to make sure I have it all set out here. We have the missions pack open and I have them written down. So let's take a look here. Oh, with our gets. So first on his list, I did that right. Yep, yes I did. First on his list was Necron Scatterstar. So this was mission Terraform. Let me show the actual mission pack. Here we go. So of course, like I said, not familiar with UKTC. Necessarily like I played on it, but I still wanted to at least show you gets that are familiar with what they're playing on. So he was playing Terraform round 1 to begin Star Shatter. So we have the Nightbringer, the Emotech, the Stormlord, Technomancer, and the Silent King. 1 Reanimator, 1 Brick of Wraith, 2 Doomsday Arcs, 1 5-man units of Flayed One for the infiltration, 2 individual Locusts, 1 Lich Guard unit, and then 2 minimum size units of Ophidian Destroyer. So here, little deep strikers, little skirmishers, trash scoring units, infiltrators, some long range support, and then their 1 big brick if I don't die with the reanimator, and then Silent King support with a Necron shard. Now, of course, he did pop a big 97-point win there. Like I said, I'm not going to unpack every single one right away because it's early. We have a lot of rounds to get through. But I think as we've shown before by the numbers, the Gas brick on itself cracks the Wraith brick, no problem. The Silent King, no problem. A lot of the time, Necrons want to bait you out and then just delete you and say, well, you can't do that again to me. In this case, Orcs have a lot of layers of if they make contact with almost anything on that list, they're able to crack it. The Nightbringer hypothetically could be of annoyance, but as for denying scoring or in that case, or if someone wants to focus it down, Brian in that case, just the amount of punches he could have with crit 5 punches lethal is enough to help bring him down. The flash gets popping, lethal sustain in that case. Just remember, his list has a ton of lethal sustain. The flash gets pop an ammo run, here's lethal shooting sustain, and then if they get into a fight and they're near gas, it's lethal sustain. Each flash get has built in 4 attacks, and then on the wall they would go up to 5, their base strength 5, and then up to 6. So there's just enough strength to just pop, punt, crunch anything in the Necrons, at least wounding on 5s, and just put that saturation of volume on the Necron. So there's just too many layers, and that really is always a Necron problem, right? Plus, they have to try to pop those wagons. They can't really fast enough to prop all those lines of fire. 1 boat can't reliably do it. And then Orcs just make contact because Necrons try to stat check you, and I've always felt like that's a not necessarily favorable matchup, but it's always a workable matchup for Orcs because they do try to take it on the chin, right? And if you won't take it on the chin, we'll knock your teeth out. So then we go to a second matchup. Look at me getting all excited. All right, second matchup. We have Astra Militarum. Let me show the mission. So we have Purge the Foe. Shout out to Purge the Foe. As you can see here, I think you guys can see my finger in the middle. They have these 2 big L staging. It's known for, hey, this layout is kind of good to walk up and stage up to some degree, but then once you come out into the open, you're kind of getting docked up. So something to keep in mind, but he's had some good pressure on his list. Now that's I had the Necron still up. Let me take this out. There we go. So now we're back to the Astra Militarum. So we have Cascadian Castellan command squad. There we go. Catachan command squad, and then an Ogren bodyguard. So he has a big old durable kind of reviving the Ogren, taking the punches. It wants to move a little forward. It can be used as kind of like a third layer. Then we have Rogel Dorns, 2 of them of the commanders, 1 big brick of Cadian Shock, followed by another 10-man unit, 2 units of Catachan Jungle Fighters. Remember, they do have a scout, followed by 2 Chimeras. So if they jump in there, the Chimeras can jump forward too. So that's where they create that screen and the guard. They brought back the Bolgren bricks. The Bolgren. Now, the Bolgren do have a respectable stat line into Orcs generally. Their toughness, I think, gets up to 6. But when you bring this kind of War Horde, I can come and stat check you. I think the Brute Shield is a 2-up armor save one, though. Let me make sure on that. But yeah, this is another one where, well, if you're gonna take it on the chin from us as orcs, you better have the stats behind it. And in this case, because of gas, almost nothing can stand up to that. Now, let me keep going through with this. I do respect that style, though. I know they have 6 of Feel No Pain, 6 of Feel No Pain, and Separate Damage 1. Then they are running the Brute Shields are the 4-up invuln. Let me make sure. So he has 5 Brute Shields, 5 Brute Shields. So the Brute Shields are the 4-up invulns, meaning that he is highly susceptible to volume. And these guys, the Slab Shield now, Slab Shield now is only a 4-wound characteristic. So they do not have the 2-up armor save anymore. Good that I double checked that. Grant, fantastic. Which is something that saturation of wounds is something you can get through on them. We're just trying to pull off here, right? Because like I said, even though we did talk about, well, flash kits are going to have their damage mitigated to 1, yes, but they can actually get up to strength 6 on the punches. Their guns are already strength 6. Not to mention you have the boys that could run in and run right through them with gas on their own. So they're not meeting that stat check line when you can just put the volume through it. They have the 4-up invulns. It's fine. They do have the 6 of Feel No Pain. Then we have 3 units of Kazarkin. So this is, I blow right through you and I keep on going. As much as I'd like to say exactly how he would play this on what turn he would, I'm not sure. Just because I'm not used to this layout, but it would be, I need to punch through your lines quickly before you deteriorate my army, because it's not necessarily that durable once it starts to disembark. But when it makes contact with multiple targets, all those infantry, the Bogren, some of those chimeras, like I said, your either knobs or your breaker boys now have potential to easily swipe away these chimeras if they have to get into contact with any of them. So as long as you make contact with a lot of different models, from the guard, you don't have to necessarily kill the Rogodorn commanders. A lot of times newer players will say, well, how do I kill the Rogodorn commanders? I got to get to them. Well, just kill everything else. If you can't score, you can't play the game, it doesn't really necessarily matter that I didn't kill your Rogodorn. So 92-point game there, right there. He had all the stats, the points, the numbers, stat lines to meet that Bulgren wave. So then moves on to game 3. Mind you, the game, did I say what it was? I said it was Purge of Foe. Yeah, last game was Purge of Foe. Now this one is round 3, which he's going into the Black Templars. So let's pull this down. Round 3, hidden supplies. Yeah, that's what I got written down. Okay, hidden supplies. Let's go. Saturation of objective markers and a search and destroy deployment. Keep in mind he doesn't have infiltrators of any sort, no Snikrot, no commandos. He's just straight up, I'm all the meat, I'm right in your face. So let's see how that we'll see how that works out. Well, actually, I guess we already did see, right? Because we could see the score. So let me clear out some of these. There we go. So now we move on to the Black Templars. We have a triple Castellans, followed by a Emperor's Champion, Lieutenant in Phobos, 1 Lieutenant in Combi Weapon, and then triple Marshals. Goodness. He went crazy on them character lists. All right, 1 Assault Intercessor Squad, followed by double Impulsors, 1 Lancer, 1 Cursor Squad, 2 Executioners. Okay. Sorry, I was just making sure I was reading the stat again. They do have the heavy las destroyers. I mean, not reliable. 3 minimum size unit of sword brethren, and then 1 Cladius assassin. So the Cladius assassin does get rough, where it's like, okay, well, now I was paying 3 CP, for fight on death, and okay, now 2 CP for critical 5 pluses. Luckily, you don't have to overkill these Black Templars units, even though they are very killing on their own. They'll blend you up, mind you. Sword Brethren with the Castellan definitely do work. Then of course you have Repulsor Executioners, always have a degree of volume of shots, and they can hypothetically pose some risk metal wagons, but as long as they can't put Lancer and a Gladiator Lancer on there with Oath, and probably that Incursor squad for +1 to hit, that would be like okay, that wagon's probably getting popped. Other than that, this is very much always important on how you're setting up your screens, who's fighting who, CP discipline, of course, understanding the fight phase, how to make those guys fight with units they don't want to actually get into fights with, like a battle wagon, forcing the Ford Brethren to fight battle wagons and let your knobs fight something, or if you're not your knobs, be taken out with them. That 5-man unit, stop the 20-man gas unit from getting just completely blended. But if you do, at least make sure you take out some of those tanks if you can. Nonetheless, what I will say is he did get a 100-point win there. And this was the round 3 layout for search and destroy. So it might have been that he was just stuck it to him, right? It just it might be they just stuck. Sometimes you got to do that. You just got to do it because they're not really that. They're very, very elite. I mean, when he's running that many characters, it's hey, you kind of just got to get stuck in. Flash gets have the perfect profiles into all those data sheets, right? You'll end up trying to Overwatch if you can. If you Overwatch some of those Sword Brethren, they're just not really that useful anymore. So even though, yes, they are super killy, our stuff isn't expected to survive. It's just meant to trade out with you, and they cannot keep that up. So when you just have that much stuff and you have that, it's always about pulling bodies off of them as much as you can as an Orc player, just because eventually they just run out of steam when you're going into that kind of Space Marine matchup, fighting on death at a key time with the key unit. If they try to get in blend that big boys unit. So then we go, and because you're not critical 5+ is still nice when if you can get it off like into Sword Brethren from 5 knobs, sure. But otherwise, none of these guys are durable. They're all getting crumbed, right? And Repulsor is not an execute, not a land raider necessarily, but 100-point win there. Shout out to him. Let's go into his 4th game. Shout out to Tyler Howells. What's up, homie? War to the Great Wall. Thank you for becoming a member. Shout out to you. Then we go to his 4th matchup was into the Tau Empire. Now let's look at his. I'm making sure I erase these guys so I don't get overwhelmed by stuff. Then we go into Tau Empire, game 4, which is Linchpin. Shout out I actually really enjoy Linchpin. I like when people have to care about their home objective. That's just me. So then we go into Tau. Okay. Well, I wonder how this works. I wonder how this works, honestly, against Tau. So someone let me know, UKTC, because what I hear is pretty shooty. So Tau and UK, this one, you're like, all right, I'm glad I got some DACA too. I'm sure I'm sure he's happy about that. So we go Commander Farsight, Commander Enforcer battle suits, 2 of them, 2 strike squads, 1 knife fight fire suit, 2 star scythes, 1 Sunforge, a ghost keel, 2 crew rampagers, triple riptides. Oh, Triptide's back, boys. And then 2 stealth suits and only 1 Vespid unit. So Vespid for their deep strike and then their shenanigans. Infiltration from the stealth. Riptides for the Triptides. Rampagers, mortal wounds on the charge, good fighting, volume. Your flashes do work them though. I think they have 5 wounds apiece. They don't really get good saves. And you can't really let them make contact with you because they'll mess you up. So these guys are fun guys to shoot with your flash kits for sure. I think they're also T5 or 6 or T6, I think. But yeah, that being said, I think they're at least, hopefully, if I remember. Not a ton of that like forward momentum screening on this. I wonder if that's really what you would want to be into play here. But remember, Tau does have I have to focus you down. Always play hyper aggressive into them. They are Xenos just like us. So they want to create the wall, trade bodies for points, focus, priority down the targets that are going to blend them too fast, and then just outpoint you and take position on you. Especially as a fellow Xeno. So you as an Orc player is about getting the initiative, running through them, not letting them get it to the late game and be powering up like that. So shout out to him, 87-point win there. Let's move to the 5th game. Make sure I'm counting these down. You get 5th game right here, where he goes into Necrons again, like we spoke about in his Scatter Star. So we got command bars, so he can give kind of like buffs on his own. I think he's like a -1 to wound, or is -1 to damage. Don't remember. A Hexmark Destroyer, Orkin the Diviner. Oh, I haven't seen that guy in a while, long time actually. Overlord of the Transcendent Shroud, a Technomancer, and then Silent King. Goodness, guys, look at that. What is that, like 700 points characters? A big brick of 20 warriors. Ooh, who's getting crumped by Gaz and the lads, boy? Oh, I would absolutely love to see that. Like, oh, you got 20 warriors? Oh, okay. Oh, and raids? Oh, okay. Yeah, I love to see that. Okay, so we got race right there. Crypto thralls to go alongside those warriors. 2 doomsday arcs, flayed one, 2 locust destroyers, and an ophidian destroyer. So love to see it in the sense that this would be fun trying to meet those lines. Now, good part is Gaz can absolutely pop one of these units. The issue is they can't pop both simultaneously. So you would need to play the fight phase proper, of course, as they get. Keep in mind, I don't always, you do have to make contact with the Necrons, but it's actually most important that you do it when they don't get on objectives, right? If I can get my wagons to charge into those bricks to hold them back, I'm very much doing that. And then Wraiths are going crumping, his, either mid objective with those Wraiths or his natural expansion, whatever you decide to put them. Because I'd much rather rip the Wraiths off the table on my go turn than, necessarily the Warriors in that case. But of course, you do have a Silent King as well. But there's a lot of other units that he has on his list. The Warriors might be something that my flash gets go into instead, right? Where I use them to shoot, maybe charge into them, good profile to punch them, good volumes. They only need 1 wound of punches each. They can stay stuck in a fight with them. They don't mind. There's a lot of bodies. So that one would be pretty nice to see. This is a kind of pretty fun matchup, in my opinion, what it looks like. But did I show? No, I didn't. And as for the 5th one, it was actually Take and Hold, another search and destroy one. So very much aggro if you can make it there. He did end up getting a 71 point win there, so it wasn't as much as he wanted. Maybe he went second. Not necessarily sure which one's on that. Maybe his issue of staying on objectives, because you are able to get cleaned up on those with those Necrons if they you try to play it out with them a little bit. So 71 points there, but then he moves into the 6th game. So we get 5th game, 71. So then he moves into the 6th game, which is going into the Drukhari. And this was Terraform. So let's take a look at Terraform on that one. Boom, it shows red. That's how you know on the big boy rounds here. Oh, look at that. Okay. Goodness. I wish I've sometimes I wish I had played it, and then sometimes I'm not. Chad, you let me know. Do you ever wish you play on UKTC, or do you ever like, I'm not exactly sure how that would go, but let's move it. Let's look at the Drukhari. Now, I think they're getting a book, so not too much time on that. So 2 Archons, 1 Beastmaster, which is that scouting, running up and trying to move blocky type of unit. Lilix, and then a Rakarth. 2 units of Warriors, 1 Witch, 1 Raider, 2 Venoms, Court of the Archons, double of them, 1 unit of Grotesque, Hellions, double Mandrake, Scourges, and then some allied troops. Is this New Drukhari? I don't think it's New Drukhari. I don't think they came out necessarily yet. Oops, let me get this stuff. Oops. All right, cool. And for that one, he got a 100 point list. Very gentle, very soft, right? Now, I know they do have their shenanigans to not be overwatched and such, but again, having a little bit of flash get, perfect profiles into them, and flash gets are expendable, guys, right? Why I use them is because the enemy will prioritize them as a target, but ultimately it's a 160 point unit. So you have these big bricks of what would be similar to boys' wounds with the better armor save. Of course, they're in 2 damage. They're 2 wounds, so 2 damage. Weapons, they are susceptible to it, but the interactions they get on the field, the multiple activations here, and then the fight, the being able to multi-fight charge, shoot these same targets, draw the same profile tensions away from the boys, disembark from the wagons with big boatload of wounds, and then let the SWAT, what would be considered SWAT team styles of the knobs and the breaker boys, go around and pick their ideal targets to get fights in and trades on with strats, right? Flashers are working independently. They don't really care about the strats. They just want to stand near Gaz. They just want to get the War Horde sustain, and they end up getting really good pro matchups into anything on this Drukhari list. And that kind of support. So I love to see that. And then we move into his last game, which was on Purge the Foe into Emperor's Children. So let's take a look at that. Boom. Now, Emperor's Children is actually one of those tricky matchups. I think when you're an Orc player and you haven't played them before, I know when I first went to them, I was like kind of like, oh, what the heck? So let's look at their list real quick. We have Demon Prince with Wings of Slanesh, 2 of those, and then one Lord triple Lord Exultant, sorry, followed by a Lord, whatever this name is, and then Lucius the Eternal. Triple Infractors, they work a lot like Legionnaires, where they get to reroll wounds if you're on an objective. So either way, it said that yeah. Yeah, he said it in this one. He did end up conceding, but Orc still should know. Yes, and I was supposed to say that too, guys, after I went over it. But he did end up having to concede it, as it was a shadow round and he couldn't play this. But I do still think can be an interesting matchup and difficult matchup for Orcs if you're not used to it. Even though I wouldn't say it's a bad matchup. That's because they want to do what we do. Similar to what we do, but they can get the initiative on us. But we'll talk about that. So we have triple Infractors, which they end up acting the Legionnaire bricks, or what you would consider as a boy mob with a war boss, right? Where little missiles, they're cheap, they want to fight on objectives, their character goes supercharged once per game, and such. They jump out of rhinos in that case, access to advance and charge. They do have stipulations to these advance and charges or advancing and shooting, where they can't declare like the same units do the same things or multiple units, but they can still jump out of these transports, which they're going to stage, which you can see very much easily, like we do with our trucks, disembark, run into you. They have a flawless unit, 3 units of noise marines, which typically do have the volume to actually hurt you and shoot out the rhinos if they want to as well. And then the demon princes are fast enough to get up the field, choose their targets, and such like that. And then what's also kind of funny about them is when they do continue the game into you as an orc player, if you let them fight too many of your assets, they can supercharge themselves so they're even more killy as the game goes on, which can end up kind of burning through your assets too quickly if you're playing an also elite style orc list. Now they do have weaknesses into like vehicles and high toughness. They are, pricey. They can get traded out with fights on death. So I wouldn't say they're a bad list for Orcs, but just keep in mind that, he did get to these last matchups and these last rounds. And that player still had to that player was still there as well. So shout out to that guy, even though he, they didn't get to have their game. And shout out to Brian Siepp anyways. But Orcs all in all, not bad matchup into Emperor's Children, but something you should be aware of. So with that being said, let's take a look at his list one more time. Hopefully I don't take too long on that. We have Gazgul Thraka, Big Mac with Follow Me Lads. Remember, they have to be on the field. So typically, yes, you just stick them right in the middle of the field behind one of those big pieces of terrain, like as we were showing and all these layouts, right? That's what's valuable is when you're playing this UKTC, you can see he always has somewhere kind of pretty safe to stage it. Now, if he stands inside of here, he gets lines of fire. You could argue there could be open up some lines of fire, but he gets staged quite safely for the most part in this middle terrain piece for most of his missions and most of that UKTZ terrain layout, even though it is known for being shooty. Then jump out there, run through screens, hit people's back lines, valuable units. I love to see that. 2 Breaker Boy units, two 10-man unit flash kits, 2 5-man units of 1 flash kits, 1 burner boy, and then 2 minimum-sized unit Gretchen, 2 knobs with power claws to go inside those war bosses, and then 2 units of battle wagons. So also for the Renner boys, probably going into your reserves, in my opinion. If you guys want to know what I would think if you're wondering about those. I have been using Renner boys. They're all right. Maybe a points thing. If you don't, not something I necessarily say you have to bring, but they're all right. They do their thing. But shout out to Brian Siepp going 6-1. Whoa, for the Great War, showing the War Chief love and getting it done. So let's take a look now at our poll as to what orc list we're actually going to cover. So it looks like I need the poll now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So thank you to a lot of gets that are showing this and wanted to see what it's like. Looks like we have Gaz winning with the 58% win rate. So like we said when we started the video, you get to pick. Chad gets to pick when they're live. Of course, if you're rewatch gang, go ahead and leave a comment what you guys want to see. If you know anything else, of course, I can always come back to these. Shout out to that. Yeah, Gaz and gang. What's up, Arcane? So let us know. But it looks like Gaz won for the Gaz team events for the Challengers Cup. So let's move over and get some of that info on screen here for you gets. Give me a second to move this along. We decided to make this more interactive in that way. I'll let you guys choose what list you guys want to cover instead of for those who are live here. So thank you for you gets for voting on that and getting that in. And shout the boy Tom Godfrey, who gave us his notes. If you guys want to see how his path to victory as well, next week, let us know in the comments after the video. But let's take a look at the get of the Challengers Cup. Let's move to Ryan McGuire and his 5-0 War Horde list, where he took Gaz and friends, as he liked to call it, because boy, did he bring a lot of friends, bunch of friends, right? And just to show you guys, I'm not playing around, right? I have it right here. Friends and Gaz and friends day out. You can see those are all the characters he brought. So you guys looking right from BCP itself. Before I go over it fully, if you're double checking, like, did he mess up? No. He brought that many characters. Shout out to you. So he has some of my favorite combo on here. You guys know, you fell for my trap card. I wanted to glaze Zod. No, I'm just kidding. I actually, this was more along the lines of the list that I would like to run. Not saying that I was thinking for singles. Maybe this might be a team thing that he thought of in his head. But it will talk about why I like this style and why it still was surprising to me, which some things he brought. So we have a beast boss, like you always do. You always have to have that one beast boss, right, guys? You can't help but love it outside of the wall. Something that can get it done. Then we have a big back with Follow Me Lads. Of course, he brought a custom Mega Blaster and his Power Claw. Goes with Gaz. We have Boss Snickrot making his appearance, 75 points. Mandos did get a big glow up, but sometimes when you have Gaz on your list, you just need a point you can manage, and so you just pick Snickrot because you need your infiltration. You're already kind of elite, so boom, Snickrot makes his appearance there. So even though he is a character, ultimately he's a utility. So then we have 2 war bosses, followed by a war boss in Mega Armor. Yeah, back making his appearance on War Horde. Now, I am Get Heart, right? I'd love to see him with the Feel No Pain. You get the 4 Feel No Pain, but I'm sure you can't fit the points, of course. But if you're someone else that can't fill out all the units and you want to make some substitutes, that would be a fun thing to put in there. If you decide to bring a Big Mac and Mega Armor, you can put the 4 Feel No Pain on that guy. He's the second best target for that, alongside the Death Killer Bortrike for this detachment. Then you have Zagra Wartsnega. Let's go. So Zod making his appearance as well. Now, some people may wonder, well, you always glaze them, but why? Well, because if you already have one big brick of fast gets that are moving up the field, getting stuck in with a bunch of OC, moving through screens, what happens if you have 2 mobs of gets that are running up the field, running past screens with the bob of OC that the enemy has to try to dig out as well? Now, it's not as killy, but it's definitely very annoying and even faster in a sense. So getting them both, one's more of a tar pit, one's a mutual tar pit slash nuclear bomb. So in that case, it's a lot of meat for the enemy to choose through. And remember, Zod can end up hunting down the not ideal target for Gaz, trying of holding him in place, try to take the steam away from that target, whether it's a big killy melee unit, getting stuck in with the shooting target, flipping an enemy's natural expansion, so they have to prioritize cleaning both for their primary. And Zod himself can crump, right? So even though he doesn't crump as good, he still gets sustain, and then there's a chance you can fishtail the Grots into his lethal aura, so then the run herders and Zod will get lethal sustain, and then of course they're +1 hit, +1 to wound. And I'll tell you how much, guys, how many times my runt herders have absolutely done way more damage than enemy expected, because they're built-in strength 5, then they get up to strength 6 on the wall, they have 3 base attacks, and so it gets out of hand real quick. They don't have AP, but it's okay, it's just a bunch of punches. So Zod getting a bunch of get stuck in, giving them lethal on those run herders, and then all the Grots punching people, hilarious. Takes a lot of chess, time off for the clock, but you can always just have preset dice. Either way, it's a real thing. It's a real thing that I think I like as well. Now, it might be teams, right? It might be that these guys were smart enough to know I put them into the targets that can't just blend all of this, But either way, we have the 10 snaggers for the beast boss, 20 boys for the Gaz, 4 trucks, no wagons. 4 trucks, no wagons. Here we go, right? And that's where the little debate is, right? Do I want to bring 2 trucks or 1 wagon? Of course, there is still a point discrepancy there of 20 points, so you are paying less. 2 5-man units of flash gets, 1 minimum size unit of Gretchen, followed by a large unit of Gretchen, 1 big brick of mega knobs, For the War Boss and Mega Armor, they do have twin kill saws, followed by 2 5-man units of knobs. I do think the 5-man units of knobs are getting the War Bosses. And as for the Mega Knobs, they're acting as a anti-tank unit, right? They're acting more of, well, you know, have Breaker Boys. I'm having more AP, which is something that I very much value. And everybody else list is the volume. Everybody else on this list is a volume of punches. So the Mega Knobs are going for the quality instead of the quantity. And then, you know, but War Horde does help them a little bit with their quantity. Yeah. So that's pretty cool to see on that. Plus, you have, again, the same reality that this unit itself isn't easy to dig out either. So you have the Zod going somewhere, getting stuck, plastered to someone. Gaz getting stuck, hitting someone, getting plastered to someone. Mega Knobs running up, hitting someone, getting plastered, stuck in with someone. And then you have all these units who can fight on death, hard as nails, you know, and you still have these units that are probably going to still be alive after they've hit you and you've hit them because they're 5-up invuln. They have to continue to try to dig out. Not to mention you have knobs running in there getting fights, Flash gets getting trades in, and then all the trucks you have to clean as well. So it's a lot more to chew through than the enemy would necessarily expect, or people expect from Orks, right? Because usually people are looking at Orks and they're thinking, I'm just going to absolutely crump you with the one-hit wonder. In this case, it was, well, I have the ability to just keep scoring even while we're getting stuck in these fights. And that reflected in some of his big scoring events. So he did have 6 games here. I said 5-0. I don't know. I wrote 5-0 there. Sorry, guys. And shout out to our Mad Git Wapo. Whoa, happy October. Hopefully I get that knob from you in October. You get because Mad Doc over here is hooking me up with an awesome knob Git himself. So I look forward to that. Nice to see you using your super chat. 22 members since here the beginning. Since the beginning of the Great Wall, of course, the great Mad Doc Wapo has been here. So shout out to you. Thank you for that. You get. And shout out to the chat, of course. Now let's take a look at him. He got 10 overall as an individual. Right there, John Lennon right there above him. Shout out to John Lennon. So we go to his path to victory. Let's take a look at what he was actually dealing with in each of these games. So we go first was Demon Time. Well, you want Crumpin' Time you get because this is an absolutely best matchup scenario for us. Great job in the team pairing. So Be'lakor, Bloodthirster, Great Unclean One. We have the video on the math on this. Gaz, Brick, can. Not always, right? There's always 4-up and Field Pain to go either way. But on average, do kill this Great Unclean One with this 4-up Field Pain. But you don't have to do that. Remember, that doesn't have to be the target priority. You can just kill everybody else, and then this guy can run around being stupid on his own. But I just like to show the math. Then we have Rodriguez, followed by Scarbrand, 1 unit of Nurglings, a big brick of Plague Bearers, 1 Beast of Nurgle, 2 Fleshhounds, and some Seekers. So, of course, the game goes. I throw some units forward. I kill clean their units. They bring big gits forward with demons. They get crumped on the wall. I get stuck in with Zod and all those other gits, and boom, it's over. So it was closer on points than that typically. Now, I don't know what the mission would be, but typically for Orks, they do have all the tools for that. Now, the mission can be an issue because the fat, big boy, Great Unclean One can end up, if it's a 4 objective mission in the middle, he can end up just securing primary nonstop because he is great OC for the most part. So even though he can get cleaned up, if you do commit to cleaning him up with Gaz, he can't get everybody else. So typically it's more reliable to get everybody else. And I should have mentioned one thing also that is actually important about this list was Rodriguez. Now, Rodriguez giving you -1 OC means that within range of him means that your OC bricks from Zod and Gaz aren't as reliable. But other than that, it is very much also the fact that he has the ability to kill you, kind of. I wouldn't say that reliably, but he has the ability to dig out Zod a little sooner than you would want. So I really much would like to know the mission there. But hey, I didn't know what it was. Let's go on to the second matchup because I want to show that. But ultimately, on most scenarios, that's a pretty favorable matchup for Orks. Then we go into the second game where he has the World Eaters. So he said some World Eater stuff at the top that said, I'm getting crumped because fight on death. So we have Cheeks of Demon Prince of Corn, Karn the Betrayer, Slaughter, 2 Slaughterbound, 3 of the 10-man units of Corn Zergers. I think these are actually pretty awesome. They can stack lethal, sustain, they can get additional AP, disembark from rhinos, they're relatively fast. They have a blood surge capability. Very cool on them. They're kind of like wannabe Orks in that sense. And then we have the 2 rhinos for that. Now, something to keep in mind, I think this is the thing. They have a really weird data sheet ability on their rhino. That is something to keep in mind, kinda, but it doesn't always come up because sometimes they just get crumped anyways. But it was funny. I just felt like reading it out. It says meet any challengers in your opponent's movement phase. Each time an enemy moves within 9 inches, you can disembark. So that's funny. I mean, it can set up some funny interactions for heroics. Then we have 2 chaos spawn, 1 unit of 8 bound, followed by an exalted 8 bound, and then 2 hellbrutes and a unit of jackals. So hellbrutes can do some fun stuff where they hit 1 orc unit and then they continue the momentum. Ultimately, they are quite squishy though and can get crumped. Big issue for world eaters is the fighting on death part of them, and the fact that we're actually kind of fast too, as well as, like I said, when I said you can tar pit or have an issue with make an issue for the enemy where you can block off one of their most killy units into Gaz while he kills everybody else. That's what Zod's really good at doing into world eaters. He's really good at getting in their face. They're not flying, so they're just, hey, I'm in your way. Zod's now in your way, taking your primary. You gotta come and crump this git. So it gets really fun. Then we go into his 3rd game, which was into a fellow orc player. Shout out to Zach. Whoa, and his dread mob, because he ended up bringing the dread mob out. So we have double Big Macs, followed by triple Big Mac with shock attack gun, and then he too brought a Gazgul, you crazy git, and then a Zod. So shout out to this crazy git. 1 unit of boys, big 20-man brick, and then he went heavy on the battle line Grotz. Love to see it. So 3 minimum size, followed by 1 big unit for Zod. Already looking forward to that. 3 trucks, 1 unit of commandos, 1 unit of Luas. I'm sure that he had to ignore cover on one of the shock attack guns, right? Right there. You find our goggles. Cool. So ignore cover. Luda's there for when you're objective. Could be an issue for boys or Gretchen to a certain degree. 1 unit of storm boys, followed by 3 tank busters. Now the issue here is that, in my opinion, just my opinion is, and shout out, he has the boys with gas. It's so hilarious with the Big Mac. He didn't pay for the stealth. The thing here is that with the tank busters, the difference between tactical brigade and dread mob, yes, you do get sustain and access to the button, but you aren't reliable into infantry because you're hitting on 5s, right? So you stat speaking, you could hypothetically do really well into these mobs of gets that you're going into and pop all these trucks, but it's hard to actually execute on that, and you're trying to go toe to toe with them and with the big unit of melee as well. But shout out to that git, because I absolutely love that list. The comments after the video, maybe we should check out this gets past Victor anyways, just to look how Zach did. So shout out to you, Zach, if we talk later in the comments. Whoa, for that one. But Ryan did pull a big 20-point win there on our fellow Greenskin. So got each other's teeth knocked out there. Then we move into his 4th game, where he goes into the Chaos Knights. So he has Infernal Lance. We have 2 Night Abominants, followed by a double units of Despoilers. Then he has some Demon Allies, where he has double units of Beasts of Nurgle, triple units of Nurglings, and then 1 thick boy Rodriguez. So he's going 4 big boys and a Demon Prince. Typically was a harder matchup for Orcs than it used to be. Back in the day, it did come down, go take some points increases, and their knights aren't so annoying. They do have Gatling double despoiler, Gatling cannons, and battle cannons, which is the fun part that we like to see here. As we look at our gets list. Now, this is where I think you would be grateful to have something like more like Mega Knobs and having the speed from Zod's unit as well, in my opinion. Now, they are eventually getting blended, but they take guns away that would eventually go to the boys and still be getting stuck in, and they can close the distance enough and quick enough for you to actually deal with these guys and get them in fights where they either don't want to be, right, not on objectives. Typically, if I can get a knight into combat and he's not an objective and I am with most of my unit, that's fantastic. So there are ways to go about these knights matchups other than absolutely killing them in one shot. Now, I do think if I can, I would kill Rodriguez for the OC bombing, but that's only if I know I'm also making contact in a clean way with other knights. in the ones that are going to be moving forward to take the mid table, right? Because ultimately it comes down to I have to play the game. But he did pull another 20-point win out there. Love to see that one into the Knights again with this crazy list because Knights used to be a problematic matchup, but just for that time window. Because before that, for most of our history, between most of our weapons and everything, when you go into beast bosses and gas and the combos bitten off there, these guys can all end up getting blended. So he had a bunch of tools to deal with, these Knights for the most part, and he's showed the skill that he can execute on that. So shout out to you, get easier said than done, right? And then we go into his fifth game, which was going into Necron Scatterstar. So he has Catacomb Command Bar, 2 Technomancers, a Silent King, double Reanimators, double Big Bricks of Wraiths with 2 Crypto Thralls, 4 Durability, 2 Doomsday Arcs, 1 Ophidian Destroyer, and a Tomb Blade. Now these guys the Orcs again are getting challenged on, do you think you can meet the stat check and durability? And that's where having your boy the Gas and all these different Mistley type units that he has on this list. Now, at the end of the day, right, when you really look at it, his list consists of 3 major units, which would be the boys with Gaz, Zod, and the Mega Knobs. The flash hits are very important as well as to getting like problematic little elite chaff off the table or fighting something early in that case, right? But it's very much about getting all of these guys because of their actual army-wide, their data sheet abilities going off on the wall means that they all have to be making contact and getting in stuck in with their ideal targets or somewhere up the field. But that's the good part about when you go into the Necron matchup. Necrons want to not necessarily let you, but their game plan is close enough and aggressive enough in that way where you're going to be able to make contact with a lot of these units. Again, you might actually be a little grateful if your Mega Knobs can withstand some of the Wraith damage, or if they get stuck and get past and move into Reanimators, if they somehow touch Doomsday Arcs, where Doomsday Arcs aren't going to fall back and do anything. Don't have to kill Doomsday Arc, you just got to touch them. So again, meeting them on the stat line table check, 18-point win there. Love to see it. Got to be aggressive on Necrons when you can. Sometimes you can play them out in like a slow pace game. And just keep the wall in your back pocket ready to destroy them. But when they're bringing those Wraith bricks, you know what time it is when they bring those Wraith bricks. So shout out to that one, 18-point win. Then we move on to his last game, second lowest scoring game there. Late in the rounds means it was a good one. Where we have the Tyranids with a subterranean assault force, right? Where he's like, I'm bringing the new meta hotness of Tyranids. And Tyranids can be a little bit of an issue for Orcs if you're not used to them too, right? I know I've definitely had issues with them where, their army ability, Shadow of the Warp, just turning off all my strats on my go term can be very annoying, right? So this can be a tough matchup, even though you can also just crump them off the table because they're not known for damage or durability that much. They're known for a lot of stuff and some shenanigans. So we have hyper adaptive. Well, in this case, they actually are crumpy, right? And this one, they actually can crump you. So we have hyper adaptive Raveners as a character, Neo Tyrant, Swarmlord, Turbogon. Double Gargoyles, which again can be problematic because of their mobility. They fly, then they can also move forward, advance, shoot, and then after they hit you, they get to move again. Very good for screening, very good for OC bombing, but that's where you enjoy your Big Mac. But having 2 of them means they could overlap the screening. But typically they don't because they use them for scoring, and they try to keep one for late game. 1 Biovore, double Exocrines, 1 Hive Guard, 1 Nero Tyrant, Big Brick of Hive Guard. Interesting. 2 Pyrovores, 2 Raveners, and then a unit of Zoanthropes. So not the most amount of units that we've ever seen on the Tyranids list because of the more elite they went. But all these units can kind of deal with Orcs for the most part, with Raveners and stuff like that. Exocrines have solid profiles into trucks and the units once they get embark from them. And as I said before, with the Tyranid game, it's really hard to say how those things go because how Shadow the Warp so swingy sometimes and can really impact games or absolutely not matter at all. And then you just crump them. But ultimately, he won with the 15-point win. Shout out to you. Let's take a look at his list one more time at the Challengers Cup for Ryan McGuire. We have a Beast Boss, Gaz with the Big Mac with Follow Me Lads, 1 Boss Necron, double War Bosses for the knobs, of course. War Boss and Mega Armor remaking his appearance. Now he's 80 points with the with the big unit of Mega Knobs, which also got their point decrease, and Twin Kill Saws, kind of filling up that Breaker Boy you roll maybe a little bit, huh? We have Zagra Wartsnaga. That way you can have more OC bombing. You have additional speed to go alongside those the gas break. Gas break, right, on average is going 14. You know, Zod's on average, he's already base 12. So then he would move on average 3 to 4 on top of that. So 15, 16, whatever you can say. Again, you're the pressure, the ability to get up the field, consistently hit them, take the initiative from them, and then everybody actually having good value from the WAAAGH itself. Between the Mega Knobs and the knobs themselves are, you know, they can either fight on death, or they have built in -1 to will on top of your artist nails and everything else you have to kill. So it just becomes just a little bit too much for everybody to chew on, but still hits hard enough to knock everyone's teeth out. And then sprinkle in some Flash SWAT team. Flash gets in there, and there's only one thing left to say is great job, Ryan McGuire, and your great wall and getting stuck in, lad. We'd love to see it. I appreciate that archetype a lot. Really spoke to my heart and my green side. So I'm excited for that. So with that being said, you fellow green skids, I think Orks are going to have a lot of showing up and showing out to do. A lot of people have their eyes on us. You know, they're saying they got huge, Orks got huge increases. Really, it was just like the gas ones, the really big one we're seeing, and the Snick Rot. Big ones we're seeing here, but it is a huge impact on our potential when it's finally go time for the Orks. You know, the meta our book had aged a little bit. We had been nerfed too much that we couldn't meet these stat check lines. Now we're back on the table is, well, okay, Necrons, okay, Knights, okay, whatever it may be. You want to try to meet us in the mid table and check our wall, we'll meet you with that. And you know, in my opinion, 40K needs an army that does that. That way the game doesn't get too stagnant with getting their teeth crumped out. So I'm happy to see it. Orcs shouldn't be negative, thinking about, oh, we're going to get nerfed or not. Just go enjoy 40K. Try to get stuck in. Have fun with it. If you don't feel like using gas, you don't have to use gas. And keep doing the way of the wall, because there's always one thing to know is that we're here to have fun, right? Not here for a long time. We're here for a good time as Orcs. What's up, Admiral No Beard? Doing great. Okay, Wapo, my Mad Dog hit me up. Sounds like my knob's coming in with the upgrade. Then we got Jank. Whoa, Lucas. Shout out to the chats live. Thank you guys for voting there. What's up, Arcane? Shout out to you. Get. And yeah, thanks for everyone for being here in the live chat and going on. Brandon, seems like you guys were excited for this, and I'm excited for this. I'm great with the great wall and how the Green's doing. So remember, we gotta fix my list this weekend, and let us know what you want to do, what you guys want to do to get stuck in lists with any of these future lists. So with that in mind, there's only one thing left to say: is don't cross our wall, because we'll knock your teeth out. Whoa.